Welcome to the Social Bee podcast with your host, Louise Brogan. Every week, Louise will be bringing you a podcast all about women entrepreneurs, talking about their challenges, their goals, and inspiring you to either start your own business or grow the business you have. Visit www.socialbeeni.com to join our community and pick up some lovely freebies to start marketing your business online today.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Social Bee podcast. Today I am delighted to have along with me Jane McClenaghan. I came across Jane through actually listening to some radio shows here in Northern Ireland. Jane has been brought on as guest expert as a nutritional therapist. So Jane's been working as a nutritional therapist for over 20 years and has helped thousands of people make easy, manageable changes to their diets for the good of their health. I have to say, Jane, when I listen to you, I think it's a Radio Ulster. I've heard you quite a few times. You really know your stuff. So welcome to the Social Bee podcast, Jane.
Thank you, Louise. It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, delighted to have you. Jane, could we just start off by, would you tell the listeners really a little bit about your business and what your products and services are?
Yes, of course. So my business is called Vital Nutrition. I set it up in 2001, which is a long time ago now. And when I started out, I was seeing clients. I worked and trained in England for 10 years before moving back to Northern Ireland. So I worked and trained in nutrition, and I had built up a lot of experience and a lot of contacts when I was living over there. Mm-hmm. So I moved back and I was predominantly doing one-to-one consultations. That has totally changed over the years. So what I do now is mainly workplace health programs. So I go into different workplaces and talk to people about how to make really small, manageable, positive changes to their diet for the good of their health. Mm-hmm. I work with a lot of community groups and charities. I've written a couple of books. I still do some one-to-one consultations as well, but it's predominantly the workshops and the workshop nutrition information sessions with cookery demos usually as well. So kind of wide and varied, but it all comes back to the whole notion that we can help support and manage our health through nutrition.
Yes. Jane, I'm going to pause a second. So Jane, I think it's really interesting to me because I know a lot of my audience would be people who are starting out their businesses and working one-to-one. And it's really interesting to me that you started out in the one-to-one space and you've moved into the work-based health programs. I think that's really interesting. Did you find that a challenge to get your foot in the door of moving into corporates and working with companies?
I was actually really lucky. The first thing I would say is I got lots of I did a teaching qualification for further education and adult training, and I think that held me in really good stead actually, because having that behind me, I sort of feel like businesses were looking, going, right, well, she can stand up and talk to a group, and she's not going to be scared. But also I had quite a lucky break when I first moved back. I met, at that time, the civil service in Northern Ireland were developing a workplace health program. And to be honest, I was in the right place at the right time and met the right people. And I think a lot of business is about planning, and a lot of it is about being prepared and kind of having your goals. But also, quite a lot of it is actually who you meet along the way.
Yes.
So I did that. I developed a 2-day program with the civil service, and that ran for maybe 5 years. And then out of that,
wow,
it was a long time. So out of that, then I suppose built the confidence that that's what workplaces wanted. Mm-hmm. And now I don't do much work with the civil service anymore. Now it's much more, I do a lot of work with shift workers in different factories and hospitals and police and fire, and that is kind of my main focus now. But I think there is definitely a hunger for workplace health sessions and for corporate businesses to really look after their staff and develop well-being. So I think I'm in a good position and in a strong position.
Yes, I think that is definitely true. And I have seen that rise here in Northern Ireland, which probably means it's been happening, across the water a bit longer.
Yes.
With most things. But the fact that you've been doing it for 20 years, you know, or not, well, 17 years, has you in such good stead. It's, you know, it's fantastic. You are so well established locally, which is brilliant. And, you know, you talk about being in the right place at the right time, but it was the fact that you had the experience and the knowledge, and then you were in the right place at the right time as well. And as you say, it's almost like pulling all of those little different pieces in together, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I think it's about developing your own community as well. And by community, I don't mean your friends and neighbours, but, you know, networking as much as you can, getting your name out there, establishing your business, and also earning respect and being really ethical with what you do, and really honest with what you do, and authentic. I think that is always the word that I come back to, is that I'm not going to stand up in front of a group and say something that I, A, wouldn't do, and B, don't believe in. So I think that hopefully comes across in my whole business model, whether you look online, whether you're at an event, read a book, whatever, you know. So hopefully that does translate into how I'm marketing my business as well.
Well, Jane, as you say that, I'm wondering why we've never spoke before.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think our paths have crossed so much, Louise.
Because really, that's exactly how I want my business to be as well. You know, I will not stand up in an Instagram workshop and tell people to buy followers, you know, because I would never do it. And to me, it's unethical practice. So yes, you're not going to tell people to, I don't know, what would be an unethical nutritional practice? I'm not really sure.
Eat 10 Mars bars for energy. Maybe, would it be?
Yeah, do you know what? When my sister had her first child, that's what the midwife told her to do.
Wow.
That was a long time ago, Jane.
Amazing.
I know.
But I think the other thing about nutrition is that right now, when I started, and especially in Northern Ireland, like I was coming from London, where nutritional therapy was a fairly new modality, but it was, you know, people knew what it was, and there was a nutritional therapist in like every health food shop, or it was fairly well known. So I moved back to Northern Ireland, and it took us a little bit longer to do things and to develop ideas, and there were no nutritional therapists practicing here at all. So it was kind of coming along and sort of carving out a niche, I suppose, for me and my business. And since then, and especially I would say in the last 2-3 years, there are so many people offering advice about nutrition. Some of those people are great and really well qualified and know their stuff and are really authentic. So many of those people are not. And I feel really strongly that rather than being in competition with any other nutritional therapist, I think that it's all about building strength together and coming out as the voice that can be trusted, and trying to help people to make sense of all the nonsense and crap that is out there, you know?
No, absolutely. And, you know, there are some business models, let's say, that sell their products and services through, I don't like being negative about any kind of model, but there are some out there that make wild claims about health in order to try and sell their products. And I find that very disingenuous. And I think, you know, we talk about fake news on Facebook, you know, some of my friends who are not in the online business space at all will share things on Facebook, and I think please don't share that. That's not actually true. You know, even though it's coming from a company that you might follow, it's not true. And I find that now Facebook have employed a lot of staff to try and cut out what they see as fake news, but they're probably focusing more on things like politics and actual news stories rather than you know, this kind of nutrition and health at the moment, which is really a bit of a shame. Although I do know that if you run a Facebook advert, you cannot make a claim about health in any Facebook.
Yes, that's right.
It won't be allowed, which is good.
Yeah, it is good, because I think, you know, people are confused enough already about what we should be eating and whether we should be doing fasting or whether we should be eating every 2 hours. You know, there's so much information out there. And it kind of comes back to the idea that we're all individuals. That's why there's so many different diets around. And it's finding what suits you. And also, I think from my point of view, if I go to a workshop and I come back a week later or a month later and somebody says, I did A, B, or C, and I feel better, well then that makes my day. That is why I do what I do. It's to help people get the most out of their health and not feel like you ever have to be on a diet. You know?
Yes. Oh, that's brilliant. I love that. In fact, before we came on, I've just signed up for British Health Foundation. Are running a thing called Detox in February.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I thought, because, at home, we cook from scratch. I try and cook from scratch every night, which is a bit of a challenge with 3 kids and a business to run. And actually, I've started when I actually cook at the weekend for the week ahead, I'm so excited about myself. But we try, we try and use fresh ingredients as much as possible and cook from scratch. But I didn't really eat chocolate until I met my husband. Same with, I didn't drink coffee till I met him either. He's to blame for
all his fault.
Coffee and chocolate, all his fault. Wine, I own wine. That's okay. But I reach for the biscuit tin after dinner every night as pure habit, and it's chocolate. Whereas growing up, it would have been too rich to your digestive.
Yes, yeah.
But I love a challenge. Like, you give me a challenge, I will sign up to it and I will do it. So 2 years ago, I did the 5K a day for 50 days challenge. And
amazing.
I know when I started, I couldn't run the length of myself. By the end of it, I was running 5K every day. And how I find the time to do it, I don't even know.
Brilliant. I bet you felt great.
So I love a good challenge. So British Heart Foundation are doing, it's called Detox, and you're not allowed any chocolate for the whole month of February. So I thought, right, Louise, let's break this chocolate habit. So I've signed up. So I'll let you know how I get on.
And sometimes that's the way to do it. Like, so some people might be like you, Louise, where you love a challenge, and other people might be going, well, I just like to make things, maybe tweak things here, tweak things there. So you got to find your spark, haven't you? You got to find the thing that works for you. And no two people are the same, definitely not. But I love the sound of that. I'll have to check that out.
Yes, do check that out. What do you think about the rise of veganism?
Well, I think there's lots of pros and cons. So I think the advantages are that people are really, first of all, focusing on nutrition for health. And that has been a real change, a real sea change in how we think about diet. So instead of thinking about diet for weight loss, people are thinking about wellness and well-being.
Yes.
I think that's great. Also, we know from vast amounts of research that a plant-based diet, so not necessarily vegan diet, but getting more vegetables and more pulses and nuts and seeds into our diet has huge health benefits. But there are also disadvantages. And the disadvantages, I think, are that people are doing a vegan diet, especially for January, and they are maybe cutting foods out of their diet, but not replacing it with something that's going to provide sufficient nutrition. So, for example, they can end up low in things like zinc and iron, and B12 is a biggie because in a vegan diet, you can't really get B12, so you would need to supplement it. You can get a little bit in Marmite, but you need to eat a lot of Marmite to get sufficient. And also things like our omega-3 fats. So I think there's lots of good things about it. But like any diet, you can do a vegan diet really well, or you can do a vegan diet just eat loads of junk food, So I think there are pros and cons. It depends how people are doing it. But I like that people are more focused on eating more plants. And, it's the thing that we hear time and again, whether it's through our 5 a day, eating more fibre. There's always headlines about getting more vegetables and plant-based foods into our diet. So I think all in all, I think it's a good thing.
Yes. One of the tips I would have for any mums listening, which we did as when my kids were little, was we told them that broccoli was like eating little trees. Yes,
great. Any trick you can use, it's perfect. The other thing for little kids, I always encourage parents to get them into the kitchen. And even if that is just, even if they're 2 or 3, get them some frozen peas out of the freezer and put them in the pot. Or if they're older, one of the things I do with some of my families with older, like teenage kids, is a family challenge. So I'll get
like a challenge.
I know you do. So once a week, the kids have to cook dinner. So it might be at weekends, and you might end up with something a little bit weird and maybe not what you would want to eat. And the kitchen might end up looking